I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Here on the MeidasTouch Network, we sometimes highlight the deranged and destructive statements made by Donald Trump, not to amplify the statements, but to call it out, condemn it, and also to condemn anybody who aids and abets this lunacy. It is important that we show Americans what's really taking place, and that now with the two political parties we have, both are not engaged in legitimate political discourse. That's simply not the case. You have one party, the Democratic Party, that seeks to uphold our democracy, our institutions, and do they get the policy right 100% of the time? Certainly not 100% of the time. Do I disagree with the Democratic Party on a number of issues and the scope and nature and extent of certain policies? Absolutely. You're not supposed to agree with everybody 100% of the time, and I think there's differences that we can have. But where we agree, and why I'm a Democrat ultimately, is because I know there are adults in the rooms. I know they care about leadership. I know they're trying to actually solve problems. They believe in democracy, and ultimately they support our Constitution and the institutions within which America was founded on. On the other hand, you've got the Republican Party, which is now no longer the Republican Party of old. It's now conquered by MAGA extremists. It's the Trump Party, or the MAGA extremist party, which essentially functions as a cult. Their cult leader is Donald Trump, who continuously spreads disinformation and lies and propaganda, Kim Jong-un style, Russian style. In fact, that's who his allies are, Kim Jong-un and Putin, and takes our country on the most anti-American, destructive path that, frankly, is not supportive of our Constitution, to put it lightly, is anti-American, does not support our democracy, is pro-fascism, pro-QAnon. So it's important, though, that when we read these statements, we know this is not just the rantings and ravings of a lunatic, which it is, but is the rantings and ravings of someone who is the leader of the MAGA Republican Party. And you can't disentangle candidates. So whether it's J.D. Vance, the ass kisser, not the ass kicker, as Tim Ryan pointed out, who has to, beg for Trump's support, or whether you got Masters in Arizona, whether you're talking about Oz, and I can go to the different states and talk about whoever, they have to pledge loyalty to their cult leader who says things like this. That's why it's important we call it out. So let's pull up the first statement right here. This is what he put on his social media platform. He goes, "Who is going to enter the Trump quicksand? Many have tried, leaving permanently damaged or never to be heard from again." First off, who talks like this? What grown-up actually talks like that? What child talks like this? No offense to children. What baby talks like this? No offense to babies. Literally, who uses language like this? Yet alone, he is constantly pumping out statements like that, almost minute by minute, definitely hour by hour on his social media platform. And it's not without a degree of irony, this statement, because the people who often enter that Trump quicksand are people who are his supporters often, and people who are his allies, and people who work with him tend to always go down and spiral into that quicksand. But who is he speaking like a crime boss, a mafioso? It's just very, very, very disturbing. Who's going to enter the Trump quicksand? I mean, could you imagine if you had Obama tweeting out, who's going to enter the Obama quicksand, or Clinton or George W. Bush? I mean, it's just so undignified, and just, it's really embarrassing. It's really, really, really freaking embarrassing. Here's another statement this lunatic made. "Why didn't the January 6th Committee of Unselects discuss the massive voter fraud in the 2020 presidential election, which is the thing that led to the tremendous protest? Also, no talk of Pelosi turning down military protection 3 days before January 6th. Why?" I mean, in such a small statement, just completely filled and riddled with lies. And we have video of Nancy Pelosi calling governors and trying to activate the National Guard, doing her part, while Donald Trump literally stood there in the White House cheering on the insurrection that he caused to take place. The January 6th committee has subpoenaed you, Donald Trump, and so your subpoena date is November 14th for your deposition. Your document production date is November 4th. If you want to go there and you can talk about whatever views you want to have. We have the emails from your lawyer, John Eastman, which was produced in the district court action in California, where John Eastman states that the numbers you are relying on are false and that you are submitting false declarations. That's in the email from your lawyers. Your Attorney General, Bill Barr, said that there was not massive voter fraud. All of the people who testified before the January 6th committee, pretty much all of them worked for you in the White House, all said that everything you said was an absolute lie. But you have the opportunity. You want to speak with the January 6th committee, or are you just going to plead the fifth, like you always do? And then the fact that he calls it a tremendous protest. I mean, just think about how sick and disgusting that is. January 6th, a date that will live in infamy in our nation. You have Trump calling it a tremendous protest. I mean, despicable and disgusting language. Here you have another statement by him talking about the New York criminal prosecution of the Trump Organization, where the Trump Organization is currently a criminal defendant in these proceedings. It's now day 3 of jury selection, and this is what Trump writes while the jury is being selected. I mean, just think about that. Like, he is the head of the organization in a case where his organization is being criminally charged with fraud in providing unlawful benefits to people like Alan Weisselberg. The CFO of your organization has pled guilty to 15 felony counts, who will be testifying against the organization and whose sentencing has been held over until he testifies. And this is what Donald Trump writes. The highly partisan Democratic witch hunt goes on, this time in New York, where after many years, charges were brought against the longtime Trump executive, who they, quote, tortured and threatened for years for not paying taxes on the use of company cars, the use of company apartments, and education of his grandchildren. No such, quote, fringe benefits case have ever been brought criminally, question mark, in the U.S., and right during important midterm election, of course. Can you imagine the failed Manhattan District Attorney, Cy Vance, at the time, took crooked Hillary's lawyers from her and the Democrats' law firm, Paul Weiss, Rifkin, ... comma, and gently placed them into the district attorney's office in order to, caps, prosecute Trump. They have, caps, great liability for doing this. It got so bad that the various prosecutors quit because they thought Donald Trump was being treated so badly and unfairly. And it continues, in the end, justice must prevail. Again, literally everything is false. The reason why you actually had 2 prosecutors who quit, the lead prosecutors, they wanted him to be charged with more in this criminal case. Obviously, Tish James has a robust civil case taking place against Donald Trump for at least $250 million, but these 2 prosecutors wanted him to be criminally charged for that same thing by Alvin Bragg. And when Alvin Bragg didn't, they quit because they believed he should be charged with more, not that he should be charged with less. And the rest of his just capital rantings and ravings. And meanwhile, if you thought that this was not a crime, then why did your CFO plead guilty to not 1, not 2, not 5, not 10, not 12, but 15 felony counts for his criminal conduct? But it's always just woe on me and whining this. Everything's a witch hunt. Everything is you plays the victim in everything. I mean, just think about how just what a loser this person is. Then he writes, this was another, same day, there is the criminal trial taking place right now of Tom Barrack, who is accused of representing the interests of the United Arab Emirates as a foreign agent without registering through the Foreign Agent Registration Act, and gaining them benefits through his access with Trump. And Tom Barrack was in the inauguration committee, where there was lots of money that went missing there as well, and lots of money that was infused into that inauguration committee from shady sources. And this is what he writes about this other case taking place. Tom Barrack is a highly respected businessman whose, quote, dream was to see, quote, peace in the Middle East, a very good and noble thing. Our seriously weaponized Justice Department, however, has accused him of being a foreign agent of the UAE, which I do not believe he was, and which would mean that Hunter Biden would be a foreign agent of many countries. He never spoke to me about speeches and what to say on this subject. He is being unfairly persecuted only because he is a supporter of Trump. Everyone's being persecuted. Everyone's being persecuted. Like, they literally, in the Tom Barrack case, have shown the emails and communications that he has with these foreign governments. And I mean, just how inappropriate is it, though, that Trump is insinuating himself, especially just on social media, into these criminal trials that are taking place, and just these demented statements with capital letters and horrible punctuation. And then he here's some other things, just randomly responding to like random people on his social media platform. So someone named God Bless Trump, who just posts memes about God blessing Trump. That's what the person does. And at God Bless Trump wrote, "God bless this man for us, as you have blessed us with him." And then he writes, "Thank you, Andrea," reposting this weird meme of "God bless this man for us, as you have blessed us with him." What strange language. I mean, it's just weird. This is some anti-American, weird Kim Jong-un fascist, cosplay fascist, strange stuff here. And then he responds to her again, because all she does is post these memes, this God Bless Trump account. And he goes, "The radical left communists are destroying our country." Radical left communists? What are you talking about? And then here he talks about, we've been playing some of those audio tapes that Bob Woodward released from his interviews with Donald Trump. And this is what Trump goes. He goes, "As he fully understands, writer Bob Woodward never got my permission to release tapes of my various interviews with him. Those tapes were allowed only for purposes of making sure that he got my quotes and statements correct for the, quote, written word. In other words, for his nevertheless highly inaccurate book. The tapes are much better than the book, at least if they were not bludgeoned to death by him to make me look as bad as possible. But he and his publisher had no," and that's capitals, "right to use my voice or them." Okay, so sue him. If you think that's the case, so sue him. You sat there for a book. He told you he was recording you. He has the right to record you. If you think whatever, sue him. If you think it's false, sue him. I mean, these are literally recordings of you having the weirdest statements about how much you love Kim Jong-un. And it's like, when a man meets a woman, this is what you said, when a man meets a woman and he just knows that she's the one, that's your relationship with Kim Jong-un. I mean, how bizarre is that? How strange is that behavior? And it's just so weird too. I mean, Trump is someone who plays the YMCA and basically just steals all these songs without licensing it and literally rips everything. So there is a level of irony of him going after Bob Woodward. But if you look at these statements, it's all either self-adulation, posting things about how great he is and God blessing him, and then him just whining about things. And this is the leader, indisputably, of the current Republican Party, of the MAGA Republican Party. This is who runs their cult. This is who they idolize. And I show it to you because, again, we've been covering here in the MeidasTouch Network the mass exodus of former Republicans, of independents, of people who may not identify with a political party, just away from this MAGA Republican extremism. It's exhausting, it's dangerous, it's weird, it's not representative of what our country is, and it's really embarrassing stuff. And we show this and we share this and we let the people know out there. And it's important that you do, and you share this video and you comment below and share your stories to let others who are watching this MeidasTouch Network for the first time, or people you're sharing with, that there is a community out there of pro-democracy loving people, of people who love our great country, who love the institutions of our country, who know, though, that there could, of course, be improvements in the country, that the whole goal of politics, I think, is to get to a better place, to improve on our country. But we love our country here. And this community, though, is compassionate. This community, we care about education. We care about logic. We care about what the facts are. We want people to be good people and help out, and not filled with hate, and not treating others as subhuman and engaging in all of this hateful hate speech and anti-LGBTQ plus and anti-Semitism and racism, and none of that. None of that. We're so much better than that as a country. And I just hope we could all come together, find common ground, and really solve the problems in calm, cool, rational ways. Focus on addressing issues intelligently, and none of this MAGA chaos. Enough of the MAGA chaos. It's exhausting. It's tiring. We can't let these people come into power. Vote, vote, vote. Share these messages. Share this video. Comment below. We appreciate you. And also make sure you subscribe. We're on our way to 1 million subscribers. With your support, please hit the subscribe button right now. It's free to subscribe. And in addition to subscribing, you should check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. That's patreon.com/MeidasTouch. There are a number of membership tiers there that you can join, and it has some incredible exclusive content, behind the scenes footage, extra podcasts, and more. But most importantly, we are not funded by any outside investors at all. No billionaires, no millionaires. We are fueled by you. So if you want to help us grow this platform, and you always ask, how can you help? That's how you can help. Check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. We appreciate you. I'm Ben Mycelis. Until next time.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.